Objection.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, the brave men and women of our law enforcement are facing an onslaught of violence, harassment, and abuse. They deserve better. These selfless individuals are true heroes who put their lives on the line every day to protect our communities. Right now, as Hurricane Sally moves across Florida's Panhandle and Alabama, causing massive flooding and storm surge, law enforcement officials are working tirelessly to keep people safe. They're going out into these extremely dangerous conditions to rescue those in need. We can never truly repay them for their service and their sacrifice. Throughout my 8 years as governor, we lost 51 members of law enforcement in the line of duty. And you wouldn't believe the bravery of these individuals and the strength of the families and communities that support them. As governor and now as U.S. Senator, supporting and investing in our law enforcement has always been a top priority. Because of our efforts, Florida now has a 49-year low in our crime rate. Americans are moving to Florida in droves, not just for our low taxes and great weather, but because we have safe communities, and that's thanks to our hard-working law enforcement. That's why it's so disturbing to see the harassment, the insults, and abuse from the liberal mob. I remember what it was like for American soldiers coming back from Vietnam. Whether you agreed or disagreed with that war, the abuse and insults directed at our military men and women was disgusting and disgraceful. We're saying the same thing today, directed at our men and women in blue. It's just as disgraceful. The radical left wants to defund the police, the most dangerous policy idea of my lifetime. Think about that for a minute. If we defund the police, who do you call when your house gets broken into? Who's going to patrol the streets to prevent drug trafficking and violence? Who's going to investigate murders and rapes and assaults and robberies? Who's going to protect our schools? We only have to turn on our TVs for the answer. Over the past several months, rioters and thugs filled with hate and inspired by this goal of defunding the police have turned their words into violent action in cities across this great country, throwing homemade bombs at officers and setting fire to police stations. We've watched Democrat mayors and governors turn their back on law and order and try to pretend that these violent demonstrations are somehow peaceful. And their partners in the media have helped. This past weekend, we saw another horrific act of senseless violence as two sheriff's deputies in Los Angeles were ambushed by a deranged gunman. And in the evening, rioters surrounded the hospital where the deputies were fighting for their lives and chanted, "We hope they die." We hope they die? We should all be denouncing this heinous act, all of us, and praying for the speedy and full recovery of the deputies. And we should all be denouncing the cruel, heartless, and frankly pathetic disregard for human life that was clearly evident from these protesters. This anti-police mentality is raging in American cities and threatening the future of America as we know it. Our law enforcement officers dedicate their lives to protecting our communities, and we can't let these acts of violence continue. We can all agree that reforms need to be made. That's why it's so unbelievable that my Democrat colleagues refuse to even debate the police reform bill led by Senator Scott from South Carolina. Instead of actually doing something and having a chance at providing healing to our nation, Senate Democrats turn their back on our law enforcement. But we can't let the radical left use the crimes of a few bad actors to demonize good, hard-working police officers. Officers like Sergeant Adrian Rodriguez and Sergeant James Henry of the Lakeland Police Department. They began the department's neighborhood program over 6 years ago and lead two outstanding teams of officers that do everything from read to local kindergarten classes to assist the SWAT team with the service of high-risk drug warrants. No matter the assignment, their teams work nonstop to build community pride in the Citizens Police Department. Or Officer Jimmy Bizzle of the Tampa International Airport Police Department. He is dedicated to bettering his community and supporting individuals experiencing homelessness. He trains his colleagues on how to connect homeless individuals with resources and services they need. Or like Corporal Margot Ferguson of the Tampa Police Department. Corporal Ferguson spent years of her career defending and protecting children by investigating crimes in the department's sex crimes and child abuse unit, working tirelessly to hold offenders accountable. And during the pandemic, she's been working with her fellow officers and local schools to disperse food to families that might need a helping hand. Or officers like Detective Michelle Mahoney of the Clearwater Police Department. Detective Mahoney is part of the department's Refuse to Lose program, which works to engage the faith-based community with youth offenders to help them succeed and stay on a good path, offering services like tutoring, employment, and mental health help. She's known for her empathy, understanding, and compassion for her community. Instead of attacking and defunding the police and starving these hardworking men and women of the resources they need to do their jobs, we need to do the opposite. We need to fund the police. We need to recognize and support the individuals who have worked so hard to make our nation the safe America we know and love. We need to reject dangerous proposals that threaten our communities and strip the safety we hold dear. It's time to stand up and say enough. Defunding the police is un-American and the antithesis of the values that make America great. Police officers all across the country risk their lives every day to keep people safe, and they deserve our appreciation. They uphold their oath to serve and protect. Today, I'm introducing a Senate resolution to condemn the widespread violence, the hatred, the vilification of our law enforcement, and express our unwavering support for the brave men and women in uniform who protect us. I'm proud to have Senator Daines here today and thank him for his unwavering commitment to law enforcement and for joining us today. We ask that all of our colleagues join us in support. To the sheriffs, police chiefs, sheriff's deputies, police officers, highway patrol, state troopers, federal marshals, and many other law enforcement officials serving in Florida and across our country, thank you. It's time to get the respect you deserve, and I won't accept anything less. Mr. President, at this time I'd like to yield to my colleague from Montana.
I want to thank the senator from Florida for yielding his time. He's not only a senator from